What's going on? You're listening to the You Want It, You Got It podcast. I am your host, Russ Attitude. And today my guest is Mr. Robb Fladry. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good, buddy. Buddy. I'm going to call you
Buddy.
buddy from now on.
All
Hey,
right,
buddy.
buddy.
Hey, buddy.
Normally on your podcast, you get made fun of because you always say, "Oh, I've known this person for 15 to 20 years." But now I get to say I've known you for about 30 years.
Exactly. That's because we're old.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
all
yeah.
that means.
Yeah, okay. Well, just like today I texted Mark and told him to go listen to Raining Blood by Slayer, which
Mhm.
came out in 1986.
Oh,
That's
man.
38 years old.
So I can tell you when I found out what Slayer was,
Okay.
like as a band, Slayer and Megadeth, I got introduced to at the same time, and it was middle school.
Okay.
So, seventh grade, I think.
Probably sounds about right.
There's some kid in my class. Jeremy Ficklin is his name.
Wow, you remember.
Yeah, and we're actually randomly still friends on Facebook. I mean, still friends. Like I haven't seen him since probably high school. So, but yeah, he always wore Megadeth shirts and Slayer shirts and Iron Maiden. He's a big Iron Maiden guy.
Yeah. I mean, basically all Facebook now is like Pokemon. You're trying to collect all your friends.
Is that what you're trying to do?
I mean, I don't really fucking use it, but I have friends, you know?
It's been really interesting for me this week because obviously lived in Florida and so have a lot of, Central Florida, South Florida, whatever you want to call it, connections. And because of the hurricanes, so I'm like kind of finding out like, are people evacuating? Are people staying?
Yeah.
And I never was in a situation when we lived down there to evacuate. The very first week we were there, there was a hurricane coming and we never dealt with a hurricane, obviously, coming from Tennessee. And I was in grad school, and it was right before, it was like, July. So grad school really didn't start till the middle of August, but, getting acclimated, all that. And so the lady, Gloria, RIP, who was like the den mother of the grad students, but she was like administrative assistant for the graduate program, but, den mother. She was like, oh my God, make sure you guys go get milk and bread and you're not going to have power and it's going to be flooding. And it's just like, did I just make a horrible decision? And then, we went to Publix because we had a Publix right in front of us. We went to Publix and bought all the milk and the bread, and everybody was like, it was like Tennessee when it, spit snow.
Yeah.
But it didn't even rain. Like it veered off course. Interesting with this hurricane that's about to hit Milton, right?
Yeah,
That's
Milton. Yep.
Yeah. So, they do the like spaghetti models where they like show like, we're pretty confident it's going to hit this one out of this 27 different models, but there's one that turns off into the Gulf and then one that goes this way and one goes this way. If you go to the Weather Channel or USA Today or anything and you look at the models, it's not fucking spaghetti. It's like a twisted pretzel. They're all the exact same, just in the dead center. Like there is no variation possible. So,
well,
your
parents evacuated, correct?
Yeah, they went to Georgia.
Okay. They go to Atlanta?
A lot. No, just Valdosta, which is like right on the other side. Yeah, it's like 30 minutes, I think.
I got friend. Well, you got him too. Keith lives in Panama City Beach, and I messaged him. And he said they're in the clear. It's not going towards them, so they're good to go. They're riding it out. Obviously, they'll be fine, as they were last week when it happened as well. But
they're on the other coast, so it hits the Gulf side. And they're on the Atlantic side, which it's 72 miles or 75 miles across. So just because you're on one side or the other, and maybe it's more, maybe it's like 175. I don't know how far Florida is across, but it's not that big.
Yeah. Well,
on the shaft.
On the shaft and the tip. Yep. Well, we're gonna some bullshit about some things. obviously me and you are going to be starting our own podcast one day, and basically this is basically a test run, we can say, of it. But
Check
when
ride, if you will.
okay, all right, and we don't even have a name of it yet, but we'll come up with something soon. But when you were a kid, I was talking about this today. So, this is just something I was like, I'm gonna talk to Rob about this. When you were young, when do you remember getting your first cable box?
I actually was thinking of this today.
Wow.
Actually,
what the fuck?
so randomly, I was telling Shelly about. I don't even know what we were talking about.
Okay, because Shelly and you are how many years apart?
7.5, 8.
Okay,
Call it 8.
Okay.
Oh, I think that had something to do with it. We were talking about time, and I know we were talking about the ice storm at one point, and we were talking about this, and we were talking about that, but something got to where I was like, oh, I was at the old house, and she obviously, like, you didn't even know.
No.
So it was over on your side of town.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember you. I think we drove past it or something one time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she was like asking me something, and I was like, well, we didn't have this, we had that. Oh no, we were talking about this is what came up, and it got real weird. We're talking about wrestling, and
Okay.
I was like, I guarantee you your grandmother and grandfather watched wrestling when they were kids. I was
sure.
like, that was like a thing. I was like, when I found out that my grandmother, the one that you knew,
Yeah.
she enjoyed wrestling because she used to watch it when she was a kid, and then like it was what was on TV on Saturdays or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So she watched wrestling, and my grandfather, and then we got into talking about something, and we got talking about Pennsylvania, and I was like, yeah, I've only, like I didn't know anything about my parents' family, really, my dad's family, until, Shelly and I got married, blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, I don't know anything about my dad, like his upbringing, kind of going through that. And then I was like, I remember when his dad died, because I tried to figure this out. And she's like, how old were you? And this is the reason. I got a phone call. My parents were gone, like running in the neighborhood. So they didn't like leave me at home all day.
But they did.
They ran. Yeah. Well, this was before I was 9. So like we moved when I was like 9 to 10. Like I had my 10th birthday at the house that
Okay.
And we moved there when I was like 2. So only lived there for like 7 years. But I remember getting a phone call, answering the phone, and somebody going, hey, sweetie, it's your blah, 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 blah. Just wanted to let you know your grandpa died. I don't remember anything else.
Mm-hmm.
I remember probably hanging up on the phone. I remember my parents coming home and me being in the kitchen floor just crying. And it was my dad's dad, who I had never met.
Yeah, you just heard the word. You just heard the word grandfather.
Yeah, I heard grandpa or grandfather, and that's the Howard, the only one that I knew.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad didn't have any relationship with his dad, so he didn't even care when his dad died, as far as the story that I've heard. But I was telling Shelly, I was like, oh my God. Like, I was telling her about it, like, got real emotional about it. And I was like, I can tell you what the linoleum floor tile in that kitchen, the pattern and what it feels like. Because I guess, when I got that phone call, my parents were probably, gone for another 20, 30 minutes or something. I don't know. I remember just sitting there, just like waiting for him and just like tracing that with my finger. I told Shelly, I was like, I can remember the toy I had. Like, I had not thought about that. And we looked up the year or whatever.
Okay.
So I was like 7 years old or 6 years old or something like that.
So 85, 86-ish?
Yeah, something like that. And so I haven't thought about that in, almost 40 years. And now I can tell you what the tile was. And then she was like, so what did your house look like? And I literally just drew out like a floor plan of the house.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, this is what it is. So, but that's not what we were talking about. This is how my brain works. I'm like,
no, it's a cable box.
Cable box. Yeah. So, when we lived at that house when I was like 4, So that would have been 82. My parents they finished the basement it was already finished. They put a like a fireplace down there and
Yeah.
kind of did some other stuff to the basement. And then when that got done, they got a cable box, but the cable box only had buttons on it, no remote. It had like 7 buttons. So you could get like ESPN,
Yep.
HBO, and a couple other things. And you still, I think, had to turn like the TV regular for like the rest of the channels, but like the cable channels were on there. And then I want to say I was in 4th grade. I was in 4th grade. And then that's when Charter got or it wasn't Charter at the time. It was something else with a C before it was Charter. Like
Comcast? No.
No. It was a C word, I'm pretty sure. I could always phone a friend and Brandon Kettle would know. No, he doesn't remember anything. That's the problem. So I remember getting that, and I remember my dad bringing that box upstairs, and he wrote down and put it in my room for me to watch. I think we had a cable box downstairs, and then they put one in my room, and I don't necessarily think they put one in their room. And I had a TV in my room that I got when I was like, 7 or 8, or 6, I don't know, but a little 13-inch TV. But I remember him putting it on there, and he had like a little card where he'd like post it where he wrote down the channels, because you still had to 45 and 23 and 32. Because I remember he wrote down like Nickelodeon, and that is where I fell in love with the Monkees. I don't know if you remember the Monkees TV show.
Yeah, oh yeah.
That was
Here they come
exactly
down the street.
And my mom used to be a huge Monkees fan, so she would watch them with me. She's like, I remember this from when I was young.
The only thing I remember from the Monkees, I remember the show, but I remember this specific part of the intro, and it was the part when they were doing the bed race. There's an intro. Yeah. Well, in my head when I was a kid,
that was stop motion shot, right?
Oh, I don't remember, but
or maybe not stop motion, but they would do 10 frames and then cut, and then they would move it ahead so it would move time.
Yes, yeah.
It's like a duration thing. I don't think it was stop motion, but it appeared to be.
I remember that part, but I always felt when I was a kid, when I saw that, I always thought it was this part of another city I was lived near. So I always thought that's where it took place at as a kid, and it did not. But but have you watched that show recently?
No, I don't even know. I mean, I'm sure I can find it on YouTube, but is it on Hulu where I can just go sit down and watch 5 seasons of the Monkees, and probably that's how you kill yourself? That is a recipe. Don't do that. That's why it's not on Hulu.
I guarantee you it was. I bet you there was probably only one season with probably 18 episodes, and that was it.
Oh no, because I'm pretty sure there was a pretty famous contract dispute with Mickey.
Oh yeah, I forget. Yep, Mickey Jones.
Yeah, but Davy was the heartthrob, right?
Wait, the Davy Jones or Mickey Jones?
It was Davy Jones, and Mickey was the drummer or something, or Mickey was another guy. So Davy, I think, had a contract holdout because he was the famous one. I mean, heartthrob.
That's Team Beat. Team Beat. So,
my answer would be 82 would be first cable box, but 84 would be cable box in my room with it, MTV. That's where I found remote control.
Oh yeah.
Because I really liked remote control. Don't remember what any of the questions were. I'll only remember the pranks, the
yank the chair out behind you.
Exactly. Oh no, you fell in the chair.
Yeah. Well, they would pull you out of it real fast. You would be in the chair, and they would pull the chair with you in it, and you would go flying backwards.
Okay.
Right? And then I think there was another one where you would be in the chair.
Slide in the chair, though,
yeah,
right?
There's a bunch of different. Yeah.
Yeah, those are the things that I remember. Don't remember what they even asked, what kind of questions there were. I do remember when Colin Quinn joined SNL, going, "That's the fucking guy from Remote Control."
Oh, I'm surprised they didn't brought that back yet.
I would probably. Well, they don't show actual TV show or actual Like that was the only like thing they showed that wasn't a TV show. I mean, wasn't a music video,
And maybe
right?
one of the first shows that they did not. Well, did they? I'm sure it had to do with music at some part in the show,
I
possibly.
assume all the
Yeah.
questions were about music.
Yeah.
Um,
No, I remember the first time I ever watched MTV. My parents, the neighbors next door, came over, and it was the Born in the USA video. It was either
oh yeah,
Born in the USA video or it was the Super Bowl Shuffle with the Chicago Bears.
yeah.
One of those two were they were like, "Oh my God, it's coming on!" They all came over to the house because that's what you did back then, and everybody we watched it together, kind of like when
Internet.
Thriller the Thriller day.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the internet.
No,
When you
kind of
got
like
the internet,
when Thriller debuted. Everybody, it was a big thing. 8 o'clock.
it's like a premiere. Yeah.
Yeah, everybody sat down and the whole world watched it together. And that was it was a big deal back then.
And then the
Um,
toilets and the plumbing got fucked up afterwards. That apparently that is actually true.
Really?
Like the Super Bowl, like traditionally, not I don't think anymore. But people would watch the commercials, or excuse me, people would watch the commercials. But then if like a dud of a commercial or something would come on, like everybody would flock to the bathrooms, and like whole cities, like their plumbing would, like their sewer system would get fucked up, but just because of the volume.
Of crap.
And I always thought that was complete bullshit until like a few years ago when it snowed in Austin, Texas, or like ice in Austin,
Mhm.
Texas, and like the whole city shut down. It's because like infrastructure is built, in the 60s or 50s or 40s, and they just haven't fixed it. They're like, it's not really a problem.
Oh yeah, I mean they didn't expect they didn't bury their water lines down as far as say in Tennessee or places that snows heavily, Denver or whatever, and that's why all their water lines were freezing and all that shit. You remember Big Wheels? Did you ever have a Big Wheel?
Is that the powered one? No, that was Power Wheels. I
Power
never had a
Wheels.
Power Wheels. Oh, I had
Yeah.
fucking Big Wheels. Yeah.
With a fucking brake on the side when you come.
Fuck yeah, bro.
It's like in your old neighborhood. I was just there the other day. There's a good sized hill that takes you down to that little cul-de-sac there. I bet you could get some power. I mean, you could get that little big wheel rolling down that hill.
So I moved there when I was 9. I had my 10th birthday. So like moved there like
Yeah, you were out of
I was
big
out
wheel
of that.
age. Yeah.
But during that ice storm, Ron Howard, who was my dad's friend, who was in the 160th with my dad.
Not the
Not
director.
the director, not Clint Howard's brother. There's a different Ron Howard, R.I.P. But him and his son Casey, who was a year older than me, came down because that hill right in front of my house.
Mm-hmm.
So there's the big one, but then the one right in front of my house, it was better to sled on because you didn't have to walk up as far and you could walk through our yard.
Oh yeah.
So we were sledding down that, but then Ron Howard goes and comes back in his VW Rabbit.
Whoa.
And this is like an adult, turns out he was actually probably our age. So saying this and saying like, it's crazy that an adult man would do this. I'm like, let's do this, Russ. Let's go buy a VW Rabbit. But he would take that and drive it on the big hill and then fly over and just put it in neutral and hit the e-brake and just slide all the way down the hill into, like, he didn't die.
So basically what we used to do in the mall and Target parking lot.
Correct.
Yeah. So or jumping down Suicide Hill.
Who broke my oh shit handle?
It was not me.
I feel it was either Jason Dowdy or Brandon Kettle.
I'm gonna go with Dowdy.
It's probably a good guess.
Yeah. Those were good times. I remember one time my first experience with Suicide Hill with Rick Brooks, and if you knew anything about him, you know how he drove, and we're
hit talking North Second, right? Or not North Second.
Yeah.
College over North Second.
Ramada N, Doubletree, and yeah.
It becomes something else over on the other side, I think.
Well, I guess it's Main Street. Actually, it's Main Street in the Riverside. That's what it is. Main Street in the Riverside, and he hit that hill one time in his truck, and I ended up in the floorboard. because he hit that damn thing so hard. Because I obviously no seatbelt, and when he
Because you're
landed,
too cool for a seatbelt, Russ.
what's a seatbelt? I'm still too cool for a seatbelt.
Are you really? Are you too small? Are you the recommended size? Like, don't wear a seatbelt.
Bro, no. Listen, I got in a car one time and the sensor didn't go off because they didn't realize somebody was sitting in the seat.
That must have been in high school, because
yeah, I'm probably not. Yeah, anyway. So.
And I just want to point out, like, you are not that short nor that small, but in comparison to me.
Oh yeah. I mean, what's some other crazy shit from childhood that you remember?
Man, so this is.
Oh, here we go. Go ahead. I got one. Here we go. What age were you when you found out that there was no Santa Claus?
I want to say like 8 or 9.
Okay,
I was at the old house because Anessa, my cousin, she spoiled it.
Okay, so
she's a year older than me, bitch.
8 or 9. 8 or 9. What grade would that be? Second, third, second?
Third, fourth.
Okay, so I was in second grade, and this is how I remember it. I was in class, and this guy, I think his name was Brad. We're going to call him Brad anyway. He's like, hey, when we're going to go out to recess, when we come back in, the teacher's going to ask us, who believes in Santa Claus? And I'm going to tell you now, there's no Santa Claus. So when she said it, we raise our hands. And I'm like, okay, So we go outside, go to recess, whatever we do. We come back inside. And the question is, who believes in Santa Claus? And the whole class raised their hand except for me. Brad raised his hand.
Fucking
and then
Brad.
The teacher goes, you don't believe in Santa Claus? And I look around and Brad's like, ha, 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 laughing. And I'm like, no, I believe in Santa Claus. But then I go home that day and there's a bunch of presents in the stairwell of my apartment and right in front of my bedroom. I guess my mom knows they're going to wrap them. So I'm going through these presents and she's like, hey, get out of there. Well, Christmas time comes and guess who they're from?
El Santino.
And I'm like, so that's when I found out. So I was in second grade when I found out there was no Saint Nick.
So I vividly remember thinking they're Santa Claus, and I can tell you like the whole little setup that my dad did. Bob Fladry, when he was around, and not saying he's a bad person, he was working.
Oh yeah,
defending your freedom, ladies and gentlemen. No, but I specifically remember one time going down and there being like Santa's bag and there being a Pac-Man sleeping bag in it and a bunch of other stuff. And so obviously Santa Claus is real. And then the next year, I don't remember if this was a Santa gift or a parent's gift. Have I ever told you the story about the gerbils?
No, what?
The gerbil? Or a hamster, excuse me, hamster.
I feel like you're going to tell me this ends up dead, but go ahead.
It doesn't end up dead.
Okay, good.
So the routine was like my grandparents would come over, and then that would signify like it's time to open presents, and then we'd have breakfast, yada, yada, yada. Or, yeah, I think presents were first and then breakfast. Well, I wasn't allowed to go downstairs to the basement which is where the Christmas tree was, until my grandparents got there. That was just the rule. Anyway, so we go down there before breakfast and we'll walk down and there's a little hamster cage. And I was like, oh my God, it's a hamster. It's so awesome. I wanted a hamster. Oh my God, there's 6 little baby hamsters.
It was a female.
It was a female. And I obviously now I know the story because my dad told Shelly. It's like both him and my mom are like staring at each other and they're like, we're going to fucking kill that guy because they told us we only sell male hamsters. They don't sell females, blah, 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 blah. Well, anyway, we go upstairs, have breakfast. I'm like, yeah, I got a fucking hamster. Woo! We go back down and my parents are like, you need to go there's something upstairs for you. You got to go get it. Go see your grandma. Blah, 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 blah. whatever. Like, you know,
No, I think I know where this is going.
so go back down. I'm like, there's a hamster. Where are the babies? And they're like, there were no babies. What are you talking about, babies?
They
And that's pretty much where it ended in my head for, I don't know, 6 to 8 months. About 6 months later, I see a rat or a mouse in the house, just like a mouse. I'm like, Mom, you told me I made these the hamsters up. I just saw one. There's one in my closet, blah, 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 blah. I'm blaming them about making this stuff up. And they're like, what are you talking about? They literally, I think legitimately were like, what are you talking about? I believe my hamster had already died at this point. I think he gave himself a heart attack on the little wheel,
yeah.
which apparently is a pretty common thing. I don't know. Or at least all childhood traumas that involve a hamster pretty much involve a wheel, I think. I don't know. But they're like, what are you talking about? Blah, blah, blah. My dad catches it. It's a mouse. No harm, no foul. Fast forward to like 2012 or 2011. I bring up the hamster to my parents. And they're like, oh, yeah. And then they tell us the story of how it had all these babies and they thought it was a woman, and we went and had breakfast and we came back down and there was just blood and carnage. So my dad had to like clean it up. Luckily, like I didn't notice that there wasn't any like cedar chips because he had to throw them all out, and it's Christmas and he's trying to be quick. So he couldn't go buy cedar chips at Kmart or whatever. But yeah, they kept that lie for me for like 30 years.
Wait. So what happened to the babies?
The mom ate them.
That's what I thought. Okay. Yeah, she could. Okay. That's what I thought that was going.
Yeah. That's what I meant with the blood and carnage.
Okay. So I didn't really have many personal pets when I was a child. I had like a fish tank, and the fish tank was pretty cool. It was big, like your normal aquarium size, had a couple fish in it. Well, me being who I am, I was already thinking in the future about what I wanted to be when I grow up, I guess. And I'm sitting there and I'm taking off my shirt and I'm throwing my shirt around and throwing it. Now I'm in like third grade. This is third grade.
Hold on. What was the job that you were wanting to be? Like a stripper?
Hold on. This is, yeah. Well, I guess, but I want to know, I don't know how I know what I was doing. First off, this is like third grade. Cause the only reason I know is it was about third or fourth grade.
Bitch, you're from San Francisco. It does not surprise me.
No, but the house where it happened in, it was on the military housing. So when we moved on this base, it was like third or fourth grade. So I'm taking my shirt off, right? And I can still picture the way the room was set up and everything. Well, I had this belt, and the belt buckle it said Russ on it. And I'm sitting there. I take the shirt off, I undo the belt buckle, and I go ahead and yank the fucking belt off, and it slings right into the fish tank. Right into the fish tank. And the fish are all over the floor. My mom hears this big shh, and she walks in. She's like, well, what's going on? I said, I don't know. The fish are just on the floor. She's like, were you throwing your belt? She said, were you throwing your belt around? I said, no. My belt was still hanging in the fucking fish tank with the rust belt buckle in there. Needless to say,
you're still to this day saying you didn't have anything to do with it to your mom, right?
I've never talked to her about it, but I'm sure the story would probably change now through her eyes. But I never had a fish tank after that, and never had any more pets until I got older. And yeah, that's where that story goes. But needless to say, I didn't become a stripper or a porn star.
What were you thinking that you wanted to do?
I guess I thought I wanted to be a stripper, but I didn't even know what a stripper was back then. But I was sure off to dancing like I was. How would I have known that?
Dallas Cowboys cheerleader. I don't know. Those were your only options at that point. That was I didn't
really know about the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders until I was like.
So it was stripper. How many strip clubs did your mom or dad take you, or stepdad take you to before you were 10? Because I have an answer that will surprise you.
The first time I ever been to one, and you already know the answer, was your bachelor party.
Yeah.
And that's the last time I've been to one. So that was 2007. I was grown as fuck, and I haven't been to one since. But that was a good night, and there's a bunch of good stories that we can do a whole nother podcast on that one.
Yeah. So I went to a strip club with my father when I was 8.
The story would have been cooler if your mom would have taken you to a strip club.
So here's I mean, that's true. This is a true story.
Like, I mean, like Sandy took you to a strip club?
She probably would.
I mean, yeah, totally.
So when I was a kid, I had strep throat all the time.
Okay.
Like 24/7, I had strep throat. Like from like maybe second grade till I think fifth grade was when I got my tonsils taken out.
Okay.
But if I just did, like, third grade fucking sucked. Like, I can't tell you a positive thing that ever happened in third grade or fourth grade. And I think a lot of it had to do with me like being sick all the time. But if I didn't want to be at school, and this was third grade because I can remember the classroom, I would say, I'm sick, I got strep throat, or I got a sore throat. Go call the parents. One would pick me up. Even if I was not feeling anything, would go get the throat swab and I would have it. But here's the thing. The shitty part is that night or the next day, I ended up having strep throat. I mean,
oh, you jinx yourself.
Yeah. Well, no, it's just like I always had it. When my dad got out of the army, you go get your records, your military records, but you also go get your medical record and you get yours and then you get your dependents. So got my mom's, got mine. My father, who is an aviator who had a near fatal accident in by the way, yesterday was the anniversary of that. 43 years of his accident. CM Punk, what's up? So, dude was like in and out of the hospital for 6 months, like all sorts of fucked up, big fat fucking file. My mom, she's relatively healthy at that point. Tiny little file. 8-year-old Robb. Fucking file was huge. Like the doctors even commented on it because like you have to give them to the new like doctor or whatever. And they're like, are these wrong? Like something's like, this doesn't add up. And they're like, no, he's always got strep throat. And that's, neither here nor there. But I don't even know what I was talking about. Oh, I always had strep throat. And so I'd always be able to just like get out of school. So like third and fourth grade just blew, always sick. But one day I called my dad and I was actually sick, I believe. I mean, like felt bad. I was always sick, but like I didn't feel well. Called him. My mom worked at a bank and my dad was in special ops in the army. But somehow he could come get me. I guess he wasn't flying or whatever. So he came and got me. And then we went back. So Woodlawn Elementary is where I went, which is in Woodlawn in Tennessee, Clarksville. So we would go all the way on to Fort Campbell to the hospital, get seen, get the prescriptions all there, and then we would drive back. Well, when we left, it like a blizzard. And so Fort Campbell Boulevard was just solid ice.
Oh.
And no one could get anywhere. So we get out of like gate 4 or gate 3 or whatever, and we're on Fort Campbell Boulevard, and it's been like an hour and a half. And this is pre-cell phone. Like my dad had a beeper, but he was like a privileged person to have a beeper because of work, not because like beepers were super prevalent at that point. Not like me and you in the 90s.
Beepers Plus,
bitch. But we were just like stuck in traffic, and he's like, I got to call mom, or maybe she beeped him. I don't know. So we're just like stuck there, and we're just stuck. So my dad literally just pulls over on the left-hand side of the shoulder, and we park, and I get out on his side because traffic is going nowhere because no one can make it up the hill. So we go to the only place that is open and then it's closed, which be Mona's. Do you know Mona's Log Cabin?
Oh, yeah, right there by Sherwood Forest. Or Robin Hood Hills. I'm sorry, Robin Hood Hills. Yeah.
So we go in there, which is a strip club, or it was then in the 80s.
I think it's a closed one or whatever it was.
Go-go bar?
I think that's what it is now, yeah.
Okay. But we went in there and he asked the bartender to use the phone. I'm an 8-year-old kid. We sat at the bar, like not face. There was dancers. I didn't look. Like that's the thing. Like I was just like worried I was going to get in trouble.
But yet you're
Not,
in there.
but yet I'm in there. My dad never said don't look. Like here's the thing. I think I censored myself a lot more as a child and teenager and even adult because I was scared that I would upset my parents. And, you know, I'm talking about being at a strip club when I'm 8. It's not really the same thing. But, like, I've been thinking about this. And I'm like, I always just assumed, probably because of pop culture or, you know, movies or television, that they're going to be upset with you if you do something. And then now that I think about it, my parents didn't give a shit. I mean, they did. They're, like, good parents, but, like, they knew what was important and what wasn't.
Yeah.
And I think I got a lot worried about the not important things because, like, society told me I had to do that. Maybe, I don't know.
But and then you that's what started your love for strip clubs later in life, and then now you don't really.
I don't think I ever had a love for strip clubs. I had a love for hanging out and watching people be morons. Like I have never gone to a strip club by myself because ew.
Well, that's. Yeah, I don't think I've like I said, I would only went with you guys, but I don't think I could be one of those dudes that could just go sit there.
No.
And it's just like when I used to drink, I couldn't be the guy that used to go to the bar and just drink by myself. I mean, obviously I always knew people when I was there, but I couldn't just be that guy that just go to a random bar, sit down and start drinking by myself, you know.
That's called
we won't go there, but yeah.
Weirdo.
Well, we are.
Well, yeah, I'm calling out half your audience. Sorry.
And most of our friends.
Yeah, I'm not a go to a bar person. My dad and mom sit at the bar religiously, like to eat, because you don't have to wait for a table at the bar.
I'd rather sit at the bar too because you get better service at the bar sometimes. But yeah,
at Applebee's in Denver or in Lakewood, Colorado, my favorite Applebee's, the only Applebee's I enjoy. That's not true. I like another one too, but this one's top notch. Well, the bartender, there's one bartender, and I think he helped the dude.
Yeah.
That dude's awesome. He's like, if he's there, you don't have to worry about anything. So,
okay, Applebee's. So when you go out to eat, like you and Shelly go out to eat, are you guys a booth table people or are you guys a bar people?
If
or does it depend where you go?
It does depend on where we go. I will say that. I don't drink. So I'm not a huge fan of sitting at the bar when it's a very full bar.
Correct.
Where you're like, okay, because I can't, and I'm a big, I got big fucking long arms. So if I'm trying to cut a steak, it's not the greatest. I'm also not a big fan of high top seating, like bar seating or high top tables. For some reason, they're the most uncomfortable thing in the world for me. I don't know. It's because they're always like
wood,
not tall. Well, they're always wood, but they're never tall enough for me. Like it's not tall enough for me to be a seat. So most of the time I'm kind of just like leaning on it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of that, but the wood is probably also
and most of the time it's like, for instance, we used to go to Charlie's back in the day, the one on Wilma, rest in peace. And we'd always sit at those high tops there, but they were always either metal bottoms and metal backs. And those are uncomfortable, you know what I'm saying? But but the booths are always
in the bar section. Yeah.
But,
I'm a booth guy if I can get it, but if I go somewhere and it's like a 25-minute wait, but there's two seats
I'm gonna go
to
sit
each other.
Yeah,
I have no problem doing that. And there's some places that I prefer to sit at the bar because we've done it one or two times and the service is so much better and it's the same bartender.
Yeah.
Because at restaurants you go and there's like 6 waitresses working or waiters, wait staff. It's kind of a gamble, but you go to the bar, you know who's going to serve you, and if you had good service, and you do get better service. But if you get shitty service, you'll never go to the bar again. If you're just going to eat, like for me.
Do you remember when they quit smoking in Tennessee in the restaurants?
I was in Florida when that happened.
See,
so I don't actually remember. I just remember like coming back and like I think I'd stopped smoking at that point.
When you moved to Florida, what, 07, 08?
08.
Okay. Damn. So when you moved there, me and Jamie came like not even a year after you. We came down in December of 08 for New Year's Eve. It was 08, 09.
Oh, I thought. Oh, okay.
But no. So I moved from California when they weren't smoking already to Tennessee, where they were smoking in the restaurants. So I moved from no smoking to smoking, and then to watch the transformation of the Tennessee go to non-smoking. Because when I first moved here, they're like, "Do you want smoking or non-smoking?" I'm like, I thought they were joking around, and I was like, non-smoking, and then I realized, oh, there is smoking in this restaurant.
So when I was in grad school, I started smoking again, just because that's what you do in grad school.
I wouldn't know.
Well, you got to go to art grad school. I guarantee you'll take up a habit, or 12. But I remember going to like eat chicken wings at these bars because they all had cheap chicken wing prices, and smoking was still there. Smoking was there until I left in 2012, I think, at certain places.
And where's grad school at?
Tampa, Florida.
Okay.
University of South Florida.
So, and then I believe Kentucky, they still smoke in restaurants. I think they still have smoking sections. I could be wrong. America's weird these days, so it may be against a lot of smoke inside.
Well, I think in Florida, all new places can't, and you can't apply for it. It can't start it. But if you had it before they changed the law, you're grandfathered in as long as you don't close. I mean, I don't know if I could, like, if I owned a smoking bar and I sold it to Russ, if Russ would be able to keep that, or.
Well, if you
change the name?
No, I wouldn't change that. I keep it Robb's. Sounds cool.
Thanks.
No,
thanks.
Did you ever fly when they were smoking on the planes?
Fly when they had smoking sections?
Yeah. No. Well, I only think it was a smoking section on a plane. I just think you smoked wherever, because I think you just smoked. Because when I went to Germany, it was a smoking plane. We came back, it was a smoking plane. They had little ashtrays, and it was the worst fucking thing because it just smelled like a fucking ashtray the whole time. But
so my parents smoked before I was born, and then they stopped, or maybe they smoked while I think when my mom got pregnant is when they both quit. But so I wasn't really used to cigarette smoke, except my grandfather smoked, and I actually like the smell of cigarette smoke. I still do. It's weird, and I think it's because of my grandfather. Like,
I don't like the smell of cheap cigarettes, because you could smell a cheap cigarette compared to a good cigarette. Like a basic compared to a Marlboro, you can tell, or a Benson & Hedges Ultralight 100.
Ultralight 100.
I mean, those are pretty cool too.
I smoked Camel Lights until the time that Camel came out with menthols. And I was like, oh, because I worked at a gas station that sold cigarettes at the time. And so I would just try every cigarette. Mm-hmm. And I the first menthol cigarette I ever had, the filter had a fucking hole in it. Like,
what?
Vantage, I believe, is what the name of them were. So like I like that. I was okay with Newport Lights. Newports kill me.
See, that's what I used to smoke.
Newport
Lights. When I was in 10th and 11th grade, I was smoking Newport Lights. I know it's like 10th and 11th grade, I was smoking Newport Lights, and then when I moved to Tennessee, I didn't smoke them anymore. But all the people that I knew here all smoked Camel Light or Camel menthols.
Yeah, and so I started smoking Camel menthols, and so we knew each other when I worked at the gas station. That's right.
Oh yeah.
And hung out there.
Uh-huh.
Um, but so I remember being on a plane. Have you ever heard of my birds and the bees story?
No.
All right, I'll tell that in a second. But to go get explained about the birds and the bees, I flew to Pennsylvania, and my dad had I flew by myself, so I was 8 years old. Didn't have strep throat that weekend apparently, but flew up there, and my dad had everything set up, and it was like two flights. Like there was two planes that I had to go on each way. But I sat in the business section up front. Like it wasn't like business class. It was a business section. They had a boardroom table. So there was 6 seats on each side, boardroom table. So 3 facing the back of the plane, 3 facing the front. And so I sat up there on 2 of the planes, which was awesome because there was that. But there was ashtrays in the actual table too.
Uh-huh.
And I think there was just one guy there, but he was smoking and using the foil ashtray because it was business section. So she would come out and replace the ashtray every cigarette that he would smoke. But I don't remember it smelling any different than my grandfather's house because he smoked at that point.
I just think that's. I mean, me. That was just me being a kid, but I'm sure that plane just had that smell in general. It's just that somewhat
the 80s. It just smelled like
yeah,
the 80s.
80s. Yeah. I mean, I remember when, even when after I moved here, when I was with that girl, we would go to McDonald's, and they would sit there and
Hilarious,
smoke.
by the way.
They would sit there at McDonald's and smoke it while we're eating inside McDonald's. And they had a little
the foil ashtrays.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on, time out. I had 3 sleeves of those from the 90s at my parents' in the basement, and of course my parents threw them away.
I think I recalled it.
Just recently they threw them away, when they moved to Florida. Maybe 6 months after they moved, I see one on eBay for $25. One. I had 3 sleeves of those things. I mean,
yeah,
all the shit that we have accumulated over the years. I'm looking at a lot of yours.
Yeah.
But yeah, so continue. I just remember.
But yeah, no, I remember that McDonald's, you're sitting at McDonald's smoking fucking cigarettes and fucking McDonald's, and but and then all of a sudden I just remember then one day it all just stopped, not that it bothered me because I didn't really care either way, I just was going to say something that we were just thinking of. Oh, you used to work at Kinko's, and that became that used to become our hangout spot for forever at night.
Statute of limitations is over, so yes.
We would sit there and I mean, we'd sit there for hours. And I remember one night we sat there, and this is when email addresses were a new thing.
Oh, Jesus.
And you can get anything at anything.com. And we sat there and came up and had a slew of fucking email addresses. We had Robb at, or Russ at MarilynManson.com, or, we had all these emails for what reason? I don't know. But now if I had them, I could probably get all kinds of free shit, but
here's the thing. You know how you ever hear your password's been found on the dark web? Those email addresses that we set up in 1998.
That's probably the
reason that we're on the dark web. Because I guarantee you all the passwords are girlfriend's name, dog's name, and some numbers. That was what.
Yeah, I get that all the time. I'm like, okay, I'm not concerned. Whatever. If you want my shit, you can have my shit. I don't have much to offer. So I remember
you just say, hey, if you pick me up on the dark web, all you're gonna have to do is pay bills.
Yeah, exactly. Because I'm still in debt. I got some debt that you can take care of for me. I remember. I remember. Far. Yeah, you ain't getting nothing. Yeah. Also, so I remember too, back in our youngster days, obviously you were a couple years behind me, not too much behind me, but after we had met, we became basically inseparable. and we're always fucking to hang out almost all the goddamn time. Um, where you would end up skipping school, not even skipping school. I mean, you would skip school, but you would just get up and go and sit at the corner gas station. You would see my mom drive by. You would call me like, "Hey, your mom drive by. I'm coming over." You'd come over and then go take a nap on the couch, and then we get up and go knows do who whatever. Go to Nashville, just drive around Clarksville. We just did whatever, you know. And I remember one time it was me, you, and maybe Greg, and we went to Rivergate Mall, and the both of you
Yes.
guys faked soccer injuries and got
Soccer
wheelchairs.
injuries.
And
Very, very, very convincing. I want to say that we even said like Greg got one, and then when I went got one, she's like, "Oh, it's his second soccer injury today." I'm like, "Yeah, there's a tournament in town.
yeah.
The tournament. You might see more of us soccer players who have injuries."
But I remember though that
why did you have to even tell them that there was a soccer injury? Let me just go ahead and say,
well,
there was no reason.
I just think he made that up, or was he actually in a boot at the time?
I don't ever remember him being actually injured. So,
Yeah.
but maybe.
I don't know. But I just remember I didn't get one, but I remember you guys had them. Then you guys found out how hard it was to get around any store in a wheelchair because they were not wheelchair friendly.
ADA accessibility did not exist in the 90s. Oh, man. Yeah. You know, I was actually telling my wife today. I was like, yeah, I didn't learn anything in high school. And she's like, what do you mean you didn't learn anything? I was like, because she asked, she's like, what do you use from high school on a daily basis? And I was like, absolutely.
Good question.
Everything, but nothing that I learned from a textbook in a classroom setting. Like, my love for like computers and the internet and just all this super nerd stuff that I've been doing my whole life, graphic design, like that's where I learned graphic design was in high school, not by being in a class. I had art classes, and that teacher, I think he's dead now, RIP if you are, dude. Maybe you're not. Sorry if you're not.
RIP later.
RIP later. But I remember him being such an asshole about everything because he was just like, you have to draw. If you want to be an artist, you have to draw. Guess what, dude? Turns out that's not actually the case. Sorry for your luck.
Well, see.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I learned my graphic design knowledge. I wasn't good at it. I was good enough at it, but I learned what I knew from what you knew. You know, you knew more than I did, but because I always got your hand-me-downs. You know what I'm saying? I'd be like, oh, I got Rob our Mac hand-me-down, and then I would get fucking Photoshop and learn Photoshop and ask you questions about it, and I learned shit from you. You know, but
yeah, it's funny because I remember when I was in art school at Austin P getting my bachelor's degree, I would enter art contest and like the city ones.
Uh-huh.
And I got like second place in one, but I beat out my high school art teacher in the professional category. And I was like, oh, sorry about your luck. I don't know. I guess he's a good artist, I guess, but like,
what they're looking for.
Like, that was just like the problem with like high school in general, not necessarily just Tennessee, but like I got zero education from anything that they tried to teach you. There's teachers that taught me a lot. Not one of those things were like from a textbook. Doyle Wary, he was, I think, the government teacher, but he taught me lots of things about life by just little snide remarks to the class that you had to be on a different wavelength of thinking to get. And I got them. And so I learned a lot about wittiness and things like that. But I was telling Shelly, yeah, I would just go get an encyclopedia, like from the library, and the librarian would let me check out an encyclopedia book, like chapter which I don't think was allowed. I think
Yeah, I think
I
it's
fixed their computers so they'd let me take them or whatever.
yeah, 'cause I think encyclopedias were stay in school thing because that's all they had, and people use those for research and whatnot. Those weren't able to leave the building supposedly or the
Yeah,
library.
so I don't think I took them home because why would I do that? I didn't take anything home. Like,
No,
you know how people had backpacks? I don't, because I don't remember taking a backpack. I would just like go to school with nothing. In high school. But I would just like at the beginning of the day just go get like a letter or just a book of the encyclopedia, and I would just go flip through and basically do wiki holes, like Wikipedia holes,
yeah,
with whatever letter that was. So I'd like go through and I'd be reading and I'd like say have a B. I know everything there is to know about the game of baseball and how to play baseball based on the encyclopedia. I mean, I enjoy watching baseball, but everything I know is from the B encyclopedia for baseball.
didn't encyclopedias have a different like a smell to them? Like they had a certain smell to the encyclopedia book.
Must.
Yeah, because no one ever
Yeah.
used them. They would just sit there.
You know, my dad had one and he didn't even ask if I wanted it, but that would have been like the World Book Encyclopedia. That would be one thing that I would love to still have. And I know I can just go to a like a thrift store and get 7,000 of them, but I want a complete set. I want the one my dad had. And since it's not that, I don't need it. Like,
you want the one that was in the
trying
family.
to get I'm trying to get rid of stuff, not collect more.
Oh, trust me, I know what you mean. I didn't go to like, you know, obviously I didn't go to school much. Well, here I did, but when I lived in California, I skipped school all the fucking time. Like I skipped school so much. World champion there. I skipped school so much that
you should acknowledge me.
Oh, well, I don't acknowledge anybody. No, but when I lived in California, I didn't go to school hardly ever, man. I skipped 24/7. Well, I didn't skip until
we got hit with that truancy.
No, this is the best thing. All right. So when I first got to move back to California, we went back to the same army base that we were at before we went to Germany. And so we went, I knew what high school I was going to go to. Anywho, I'm going to just run through this real quick. I got beat up at this high school pretty bad. It was the same week as the Rodney King riot. So stuff in California was kind of crazy. Anywho, so we're living on base. I ended up going to school. Well, I was going to school there, and then we moved to this other town, and I go to what's called Salinas, and I go to high school there. Well, my parents end up getting housing on base, and they leave me there in Salinas. So I'm taking a city bus every day from my house on base all the way to this other city, which was about an hour and a half, almost 2 hour bus ride. I'd leave the house like at 6:15 or whatever. Well, one day I didn't go to school and, but they never called the house. And I'm like, why didn't they call the house? Well, I have a friend that was working in the office. They're saying, well, they won't call your house because your phone number is long distance. So when they call, it just says, it's a long distance number. So they won't call. Your parents won't know you're skipping school. So I skipped all this school. Once I found out,
is that real though?
This is real because back then you had to hit the 1 to dial to another town.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? This is 91, 92. So, because you remember back in the day from Clarksville to Nashville, you had to hit 1.
Right.
So they couldn't call my parents' house. So I skipped school almost every damn day. I go to my homie's house, play drums, eat lunch, hang out, do whatever. At the time I was working at a radio station. I would just go hang out at the radio station. They didn't care. I would go wherever with them.
I would hang out at the gas station that I worked at.
Yeah.
When I didn't go to school.
Exactly.
From the fucking school. I was brilliant. Let me just tell you.
So we, similar things, and that's when I first, that's when I was like, all right, cool. So I never went to school. Well, come to find out, when we're moving to Tennessee, we get a letter in the mail at my stepdad's mom's house, and it was from the school system. And it was like, hey, Russell has missed over 75% of the school year, blah, blah, blah. If he wants to come back to school, I still have the letter, by the way, too.
Nice. Frame it.
You have to come to a school board meeting. You guys had to talk in front of the school board why we should take him back. Needless to say, I got my ass chewed the fuck out. But here's the crazy part. Now, I went freshman, sophomore, senior. I was never a junior. I come to Tennessee. I'm thinking I'm gonna have to be a junior again because I didn't think I made enough credits to become a senior.
Mhm.
I had more than enough credits to become a senior in Tennessee. So I was able to only take 3 classes and then go to a vocational class in the afternoon. That's, so I was like,
Okay.
man, so I skipped all these days in California, didn't hardly ever go to school. The only class I went to were guitar class, electronics, machine shop, and wood shop. Those are the classes I ever went to because those were the cool classes. And I didn't give a fuck about any other class. I didn't go to history. I didn't go to English, And when I did go to English, we read John Steinbeck books the whole time because that's where he's from, was Salinas, California. So all the stuff like John Steinbeck, we read all those books, Mice and Men and whatnot.
Mhm.
So yeah, I skipped so much school that they sent a letter and said I had to go back in front of the school board to get accepted back into school. So yeah, nowadays your kids skip that many schools, your parents are going to jail or something, right? Probably.
Yeah, I think so. Did you ever get? So that's the only time you got caught skipping?
No. When I lived in Germany, I had the best. This was a good one. Actually, I don't know. My mom really knew I was there, but I think she said she did. So I would have to leave the bus stop. I would have to leave my house and I go catch the bus up at the corner. Well, I was running late one day and I knew I was going to miss the bus. And so I ended up, we lived in like an apartment complex that had 3 buildings, but they all shared an underground parking garage. Well, what I did was I waited until my mom took my brother and sister to the bus stop because their bus stop was the same as mine, just an hour later. So I waited downstairs, and when she went to go take them, I went back in the house. And the way my bed was, I had like a little space between the wall. So I laid on the floor, put a blanket over the top of me, like my blanket fell off the bed type thing. She opened my door up to see if I was in there. She didn't see me, shut the door, and then she got ready for work and left. So I had the whole day to myself until my stepdad comes home for lunch. I didn't know he was coming home for lunch. Well, they had a long lunch that day, so him and his homie came over, and they're just shooting the shit, watching fucking Commando or Predator or something at lunch and eating lunch, and then they leave, whatever. But when I get home, my mom goes, "Did you go to school today?" And I'm like, "Yeah." She said, "You did." I was like, "Yeah." She said, "Well, okay, but I don't believe you." And so I think the school may have called, but she never really told me. But I think maybe she wanted me to feel like I succeeded in skipping school. But yeah, no, I didn't.
That sounds like Judy.
But I never skipped school in Tennessee because when I moved here, there was really not much to do to go skip. I didn't know anybody either at the time. Too much. I knew Dave. I knew Dan. I knew Lewis. But that's really it. But I was with Dave all day because we went to Votech together. Dan left early because he had I guess remember when you had a job, they would let you leave early.
It used to be called work release until like work release became a thing in like society, and it's like, oh, it's not called work release anymore.
Oh yeah, because that's not a good terminology for it now. Because like work release is like a jail too, right? Like jail,
right?
work.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But
so I don't know what, because that's what I did. That last
when you worked at the gas station.
No, it wasn't the gas. No, because I used to I had to clock in at the gas station at like 2, and school didn't get out till at like 2:20, but I was in like theater class. So I'd be like, yeah, I'm gonna go, and I would just walk out, and then I would just go to work. Like, I don't know, I just leave. I didn't get permission, I just did it, and it didn't seem to be a problem. I guess, maybe it was a problem, but here's what I think. Because I was telling Shelly, I was like, I used to just read books all day or magazines, like just nerd stuff all day until, that was like up until the point I found skateboarding. Because I didn't find skateboarding until I was like 15. And then I was like always reading skateboard mags. But
That's something I wanted to talk to you about, but we're not going to talk about it now. But
all right.
because that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah. But I tell Shelly, she was like, nobody'd let you do that. I was like, she's like, you didn't turn in homework. You didn't like do anything. I was like, I take tests, and I think I did okay on the test, just kind of just bullshitting my way through it. But I was like, you know what? If they wanted me to like start interacting, I just wouldn't shut up because I, ADHD and just like want to talk, and let me just do what I'm supposed to focus on. But I learned a lot of shit by that. Just like reading stupid shit.
I mean,
I still do that. You do that. Everybody's like on Wikipedia and like becomes a scientist overnight.
Me included. I mean, I'm a doctor. But I mean, also too, sometimes sitting in school, you just didn't have the attention span to sit there. You're like, fuck, this is boring. It's like you know what you want to know, and sitting through those classes just sucked. I mean, my brother was the same way. He hated school, but because he couldn't sit there, and he didn't want to sit there in the classrooms. Like, I'm sure you were the same way too. You didn't want to have to sit there in that fucking classroom, especially when you already, it's not that you knew it, but you knew it, you know what I'm saying? And it just got boring. And that's why I think we had a lot of dropouts back in our day. A lot of our friends were dropouts.
Well, now, shout out to Wesley Kettle, who will be a guest on my podcast tomorrow night.
Oh, it is tomorrow.
Well, I don't know if you'll post this before tomorrow, so probably not. But that was in the past. But like he like got parental permission and basically did like a subject a week of what classes he had left.
Oh, he graduated early.
Test.
Yeah,
and like got a job. And where was that? I would have done that. I mean, I always had a job.
Was that not a thing back then?
No.
Maybe if you're pregnant.
What was that movie? What was the name of the Junior? No, not Junior.
No, that was the Arnold Schwarzenegger. No, it was Twins.
Yeah, what's the Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Kindergarten Cop. No,
pregnant one.
Junior.
Oh, okay. So you remember the Junior posters, don't you?
Uh-huh.
Like I had them in my car. Do you remember that?
No, I don't remember that part.
Oh, I just remember for some reason, I think maybe we got them at like Xanadu or something. Me and like John Carr and Jeff.
But that movie came out like in the late 80s.
I think it must have came out on video. No,
maybe early 90s.
This is the one where he's pregnant is all I like, because we had these posters and we would drive around. You remember I had the sunroof in my car, the little like pop-up sunroof. And anytime something stupid would happen, we were like, that deserves a Junior poster. And literally we would
the miniature posters.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
You don't remember that? You weren't around for that?
I don't know. Maybe. I don't know it.
Because I have a vague recollection of the Junior posters around the same time that we were driving and doing stupid shit. And I believe it was either John or Jeff in the back seat and you were in the front seat.
Okay.
And we had weird bumper stickers that I don't know where they came from or what they said on there. But like we were driving through the Kmart parking lot on Madison Street. And I remember you just hopping out of the car while it was going like maybe 5 miles an hour and just running up and fucking pulling one of those stickers and slapping it on someone's bumper and then hopping back in my car.
That sounds about right.
I was like, man, this is the coolest guy ever. He fucking doesn't give a fuck.
It's funny you say that. And I'm not trying to toot my horn or anything, but I was talking with somebody recently, a friend, Chad, and he was telling me
to Chad.
I don't recall this stuff, but I kind of do. and then I asked some other people that I hung out with because I mean I had two different crews that I would run with, and he would say that when I met
So you're by curial?
bro, I'm too crude, yo. No, like he would say that I was like oh yeah, that if Russ says it's good, then it's good, like the music that they listen to. If I thought it was cool, then it was cool, like I got them all into like No Effects, and I got them into Pennywise, and like, but that was the stuff like, oh, Russ likes it, then we got like it, they try to dress like me, which is weird. But he also said that I was like the fucking crazy guy out of the whole crew. Like even for skateboarding, I would go for the biggest, stupidest thing that nobody else would go for. And he'd be like, man, you were just crazy, dude. And then I hear these stories from other people, and I was like, I guess I was kind of fucking crazy and stupid. I mean, who else would go into fucking Governor Square Mall back in the day with fucking hot pink hair and wear a fucking laced up dress and combat boots for shits and giggles? This guy. And I did that several times in the mall, but it's what I do. But I was okay. And that was pre Dennis Rodman.
Okay.
So it was when I was dating that girl.
The one that shalt not be named.
Yeah, the one that I do not have a child with.
Jury's still out.
It is not my kid. So
that's what Michael Jackson said.
Well,
and I'm pretty sure he was right.
I heard something the other day where he only has one official child, and that's the girl. What's her name?
Paris.
Paris apparently is the only child, because the other two were created, right? They were just his sperm and her egg. Like apparently Paris was actually really conceived, but I don't.
Can you explain to me like a 5-year-old what that means?
He stuck his wiener inside the cooter pop.
Okay.
And then the other one.
I also want to point out that I noticed your hand signals, but listeners aren't going to do that. But you did it. No, but here's the thing. You took the pin and put it into the little finger hole, like vagina is what we call that. You put the penis into the vagina, but you did it like where, he's not going to be able to see it. Like you did it.
I didn't even know. The fucking thing is, I didn't even realize I was doing that until you said it. But anywho,
it's weird. But I don't know. Have you seen the Pink Flamingos?
Oh fuck yeah! I have it. I still have it on VHS.
I'm not so sure that wasn't the situation.
I mean, first off, I always picture Michael Jackson being like Mr. Potato Head. So if he did have sexual intercourse with somebody, it would just fall off.
Like his penis.
Yeah, exactly.
Is like his nose.
Mm-hmm. Which probably did fall off at one point. I think it did, maybe. I don't know. So.
His nose? Yeah, his nose totally fell off on stage.
Kind of like when Bobby Brown dropped his bag of Coke on stage and had to scoop it up real quick when he was dancing.
Almost identical. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. I'm about to go back and find that.
Okay, yeah, go back. It's worth a watch because I think he even does a twirl, go down, pick up the nose, all while doing this.
I wonder if he had like the little piece that like it like puts it down, like you got like the U shape, and then you put the screw in the back so it locks it in place. I wonder if that's how he did it.
French cleat. Yeah, he's got a French cleat on the back of his nose.
Well,
I mean, from what it looked like, he was just a fucking skeleton.
He was I mean, yeah, when he went, he went. Not knocking the guy, because I mean, obviously he's a very talented individual. He just made some poor decisions, I guess. But I guess when you had that
don't we?
Yeah. But if I had that kind of money, I don't think I would try to make any changes to my body. Well, I guess I don't know, because I don't have that kind of money. I probably would make some changes in my body.
I mean, you're making changes to your body. You fucking dye your hair.
I mean, we do that every day. Yeah, we shave, right? We cut. Yeah, you're right. Well, Rob, but I know we don't want to make it go too long here. We can do something. We can talk again another time. What's a movie that you would say for someone to go give a shout out and check out?
Right now streaming on Amazon Prime
Knew you were gonna go there.
would be, well, how do you know I'm not going to talk about the Backstreet Boys documentary?
Because you haven't finished it yet.
Oh, it's true. We probably share an account, so you probably can just see what I'm watching. No, Snack Shack.
Phenomenal.
Snack Shack. It is everything I want in like a feel good movie. Probably the second best movie I've seen this year.
And I know the first one.
The Civil War is like for it just spoke volumes to me. And if you haven't seen that, I think it's on HBO Max right now for free. Yep. If you have someone who will give you their account, thanks, Russ. That's definitely, I highly recommend those two, but and they're both accessible, like easy to watch.
Yeah,
saw the new Joker the other day.
Well, yeah, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that off air. That's a Snack Shack is a good movie. If you were to give somebody one album from your childhood, your teen years, what would you tell them to listen to that would best describe you?
Oh, fuck. Just one album that best describes me? Like, does it need to be?
I mean, you could just say the artist if you don't have a specific album.
No, I mean, I have like 5 albums that I can tell you right off the top of my head. Like, first thing that comes to mind, Antichrist Superstar.
For sure.
Like Marilyn Manson. Like, boom. That means a lot to me. Time and place. Several different time periods, high school years, there was definitely a big thing. Broken by 9 Inch Nails. That, Broken doesn't get enough love because it's an EP.
People hate on that album because but I feel it was a great record. I even thought Fix was the remixes were good too for Fixed, from that. Broken was actually, I guess I kind of got into 9 Inch Nails in the order. I think my first album was Pretty Hate Machine because I was in 9th grade when it came out, 8th grade, 9th grade, and I saw everybody wearing the NIN shirts. I didn't know what the fuck it was. So when I went to go pick up a new CD, because I would buy CDs every day from at school, I picked that one up and didn't understand it at the time. I was like, it was different than what I was used to hearing. But yeah, go ahead.
No, I just Broken, I think, is amazing. I have to go, throw in some NoFX. They're retired now, which is crazy. Like ever since I listened to music, NoFX was around.
For sure.
Like that's weird to me. And they're still around. They're not dead. No one died. But
they're not good. Punk and Drublick.
But for me, White Trash, 2 Heaps and a Bean plays a special place in my heart. That is actually the first NoFX album I ever heard.
Wow. Okay.
The Bruise was actually the first song I ever heard. An old flame, old girlfriend that you may know. You know her. Most. Actually, I probably all of my girlfriends
except for like probably 2, because when you were on the East Coast, I don't think I didn't, because we didn't really talk much when you were on the East Coast, but I'm sure there's probably somebody out that way that I didn't know, or when you lived in Nashville, The Bruise.
The Bruise was the first song, and I was like, okay, I don't quite understand why we're screaming.
What's the opening track?
Reason.
What's the opening track from Punk and Drublick? Not the Bruise. What's the opening track off of Punk and Drublick?
Oh, Punk and Drublick, Linoleum. Sorry.
Okay, yeah, and then the Brew is right after that, right? I don't remember how that. I haven't listened to that album in order in a while. My first No
Wait,
Effects
didn't
experience.
they play it in? Oh no, they played it in at Riot Fest in order, not whatever we just went to. Oh no, that was just like No Effects concert.
Which I kind of feel like we got shafted, honestly, because of that storm.
We did. We got shortened sets
from
by
everybody
both nights. Yeah, but
because
Suicidal
Suicidal only played like 5 songs, maybe 6 if I'm not mistaken, and because and then on that Sunday, all the sets got rearranged, which is not. I'm not dogging it.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with what happened. We did get shafted as far as like our No Effects going out promise, but
I
have zero problems with it.
Yeah, I just wish we would have got the 2-hour sets each night, but we didn't get the full. But that show was talked about and it's still talked about. I told people, "Oh yeah, I went to Denver. Oh, you were at that show? I heard it was fucking hell because of the." Yeah, I was like, yeah, it fucking was gnarly.
Yeah, but you bitch wanted to stay.
Yeah, I would have been in one of them tents too, huddled up like this, fucking. Whatever.
And I was like, no, man, I know when they say this, what it means.
Yeah, I was just so fucking
and
high.
You got docked? You got docked with Jay?
No, that never happened.
He bought you clothing.
He bought you clothing too. And he bought us both dinner. So we both got
now that I think about it.
We both got doxed by Jay.
Jay.
Jay 2-timed us, huh?
Apparently. Yeah, no, I can't complain about that show. I've seen No Effects with you several times, I believe.
I think now No Effects is probably tied between like definitely they're not a band that I've seen the most. I've seen Terror more just because of they came to Nashville like every other day, it seemed like. But No Effects, Metallica are probably tied with the 2 bands I've seen the second most.
I think I've seen Nine Inch Nails more than I've seen any other band.
Yeah.
Just it's in double digits.
Did I ever tell you this story real quick about Nine Inch Nails? I don't think I have. So look, and don't tell this to the wife because she'll get grossed out. So me and Jamie are going to we're at Nine Inch Nails.
Now I know where this is going.
So no, look, listen. I'm telling the story. It's me, not Jamie. So it's even worse. So we're sitting there and we get to Bridgestone, and I'm like, whoa, we're going up the long ass escalator, right? Because we both have kind of the same section. And I'm like, damn, check out that chick's legs.
And you said legs?
Well, she didn't have just one leg. She has 2 legs. And okay. Jamie's like, what? I'm like, oh, fuck, that's Shelly and Robb. And I was like, I didn't realize it was her at the time because you guys were both turned back, your backs turned to me. And I was checking out.
So Shelly's you were looking at her legs.
Yeah, what do you think I was looking at her? Her ass?
Yeah.
I like how you were like, you think I was looking at her ass. No, I was. Before I got to the ass, I realized it was you guys.
Okay.
But it was just like awkward. But yeah.
That was an amazing show. It
was Halloween. They played that's when they played 2 years back to back on Halloween.
And that show literally changed like my trajectory in art school.
For visual art?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, at that point, though, that you hadn't seen Nine Inch Nails that many times until after that point, right? Because that's when you started going to see them more often.
Yeah. Because I fell in love. I found someone who will always go to a show with me, and she ended up liking Nine Inch Nails. So,
you guys got together when?
2005, and I like February 2005 we like started dating maybe.
Uh-huh.
but we didn't get together until like we became ultimately serious the day that Batman came out. Chris Nolan, Batman Begins.
I
Which I
had
think
to,
was like 2005.
so I had to do it because I wanted to see. So that Nine Inch Nails show, the one there was October 31st, 2005 is the
Okay.
one that I saw you guys at. And then because Jamie, it was a last minute thing too. Like I wasn't even gonna go. Jamie just had another ticket. Oh, it was 2008 is when they played again till on Christmas. I mean on Halloween. So 3 years later. But that show, which when I went and saw when we ran into you guys, I wasn't even supposed to go to that show. Jamie just was like, "Hey, so and so backed out. You want to go?" I'm like, "Fuck yeah!" And first off, why didn't you ask me the first time? And then the next year, 2006, we went and saw Oasis at the Ryman, which was pretty badass. So, anywho,
I have no interest in going to see Oasis.
I don't want to see them now. I'm happy I got to see them then.
I don't think I would have wanted to see him then, though. I mean, for me, that wasn't.
They weren't they weren't something I was into at the time. But after I saw them, I was like, yeah, I'll fucking go see Oasis. It's a Ryman. Like and nobody sucks at the Ryman,
Right.
So, and it was phenomenal. They didn't fucking
Back at the Ryman.
That's who opened up that show.
DJ Swamp.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, I remember. I didn't go to that. When did Beck open up for the Peppers? That was in the late 90s, right?
Yeah, that was like Vanderbilt or
something like that. I know Mandy
Starwood, maybe.
I mean, that girl went, and that's why I didn't end up going. Yeah, it's too late. But anywho, yeah. Anyway,
so I would say Nine Inch Nails I've seen more than anybody else, followed by No Effects, Jane's Addiction. I've seen Failure a whole bunch.
I saw Failure twice in one day.
At Lollapalooza?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because somebody
canceled and
they were just like, fuck, we'll do another set, which was great. That was a great set. That was a great fucking Lollapalooza. That was with was that the Snoop Doggy Dogg year?
Rage Against the Machine?
No, that was Rage Against the Machine. Rage Against the Machine
was before.
Yeah, that was Rage Against the Machine, Wu-Tang, and Atari Teenage Riot.
No, I'm talking the before the Lollapalooza before was when Rage Against the Machine was there, right?
But it wasn't in Nashville because it was with Metallica.
Knoxville?
Yeah, it was like it was between Knoxville and Nashville. But it was like the Ramones, and it was Metallica, Rage, somebody else, and somebody else. I have a picture though.
Wu-Tang, Rage Against the Machine,
and Atari
Teenage Riot
was phenomenal.
Do you know how
that was my first introduction
to each other?
That's my first introduction to Gabber.
Okay, that the only reason that Blondie and I, because like me and you and like Brandon and a bunch of other people, like there was a shit ton of us that went.
Fuck yeah!
But we had like two different sections of tickets. I think you were over with me and Brandon, right?
No, I was with Lorraine.
Oh, okay. But okay, that makes more sense. I was with Brandon. We were over here with a couple other people. I can't remember who. Then we had another group on the other side. But the only reason that Blondie and I spotted each other is because we were the only two of like maybe 20 people who were standing up, like cheering on Atari Teenage Riot. Mm-hmm. And the Wu-Tang part of the tour lasted what, 2 more shows after us? Because there was Atlanta before us, then Nashville, and then what, I think St. Louis or something. And then they were like, we're out. So
but think about this though, we got to see Wu-Tang and Rage at their prime.
Oh yeah. And it was like $24.
Yeah, like 95 or 96 maybe. Did you ever watch
it was 96 because I remember Circumstances.
Okay.
I remember Girlfriend Drama. Same girlfriend that introduced me to No Effects.
Really? Did not.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah. Anywho, so well, Rob, the No Effects, Nice Nails, Marilyn Manson. I probably have to agree with you on those three artists. Probably probably a big part of my '90s era because they were all pretty not influential, but they were just a big part of my life at the time. Because I had a few because like me and you were hanging out, but I was also hanging out with like a different like Rod and all them at the same time. You remember
Yeah,
Rod?
who's this other crew that you were rolling with, bro?
No, I had another group, and you did too, But like when I was living with Rod and all those people, that guy, the people I worked with at Quebcore, we were always like Marilyn Manson and like more. I already knew
Rod. Yeah,
Department Rod with his crate with the. Well, anyway, we're gonna stop there. Anyway, Rob, what's the name of your podcast?
Been trying to meet you.
And when does that come out and air?
We are live Wednesday nights. It's Wednesday at 10 p.m., but that's Mountain Time, which Mountain Time is not made up. It's actually a real thing. It's if you're in East Coast, add 2, and then if you're in Central Time, add 1. If you're in Pacific Time, you subtract.
Yeah.
And you just go to Been Trying to Meet You on Instagram or Been Trying to Meet You podcast. Maybe it's Been Trying to Meet You podcast on Instagram and Been Trying to Meet You podcast on YouTube. But you can always go to beentryingtomeetyou.com podcast.
The longest fucking title ever.
Yeah, no, it came from a Pixies song, okay?
Well, no, you could have shortened it down for your
Bitch, this is called You Want It, You Got It podcast.
Yeah, but my URLs are You Want It pod.
Oh.
Yeah. Anywho. Rob, it's been real. It's been fun. It ain't been real fun, but we'll get together again for our podcast, which will shortly be done soon. We got plenty of more stories to tell, and hopefully people will listen. If not, we're just telling them, and they're going to sit out there.
They'll just exist.
Yeah,
once I don't put it care. On the internet, it doesn't go away.
Because I don't care
what I've been told. Know. And look, I consider this as, and I've told you this before, like I consider this kind of like I don't have kids, and I don't get to pass anything down. So you know what? Fuck it. I'll give it to the internet. And also, if there is a robot uprising, they're going to download everything from the internet. So maybe just let a little bit of me in the robot uprising / alien invasion / anything you can think of that you've seen in a movie that you'd always think was fake. And then, the world is where it is. So anything can happen. There was a pandemic. Didn't even know what that was. Tennessee didn't teach that.
They may have another one. Who knows?
It's true. All right. Let's go. All right, buddy.